The 5 most notorious cold cases in America, including one you may have thought was already solved. The Zodiac Murderer. The Zodiac Killer, thought to have shot a teenage couple and at least 5 more victims in Northern California between 1968 and 1969, is still at large. In 1969, the murderer called the police to confess to both murders of a different couple. Also, he sent insulting letters to publications. The letters frequently began, "This is the Zodiac speaking," and were closed with a crosshairs-like symbol. Both the killer's letters and the ciphers he sent with them were published in those newspapers. The newspapers urged readers to assist in deciphering the encoded communications. "I like killing people because it is so much fun," read one text coded with the 408 cipher. Another, the 340 cipher, took until 2020 to crack. "I hope you are having a great time attempting to catch me," it said at the outset. The letters and deciphered ciphers, however, have not been sufficient to solve the case. The identity of the Zodiac Killer has never been established, despite the investigation of countless suspects. We must also acknowledge that we don't even know for sure how many individuals the killer killed, especially in light of theories that he was active before to 1968 and well into the 1980s. John Bennett Ramsey, a 6-year-old beauty pageant queen who was discovered dead in her family's Boulder, Colorado, home's basement on December 26, 1996, has never had any suspects in her slaying ever detained. Early that morning, Patsy, John Bennett's mother, had contacted 911 to report her missing and to report that a ransom note she had discovered in the home wanted $118,000 to bring her back. But the family and the police only learned that John Bennett had never truly left the house a few hours later. Her father, John, was prompted to perform a second search of the home, and he discovered her dead in the basement. With a garrote made from one of Patsy's paintbrushes and a piece of cord, she had been bound, gagged, and slain with a blow to the head. John Bennett had also been sexually abused, as was later discovered by investigators. The Ramsey family friend who had dressed as Santa Claus for their Christmas parties, John Bennett's parents, and Burke, her 9-year-old brother, were among the first suspects to surface. A large portion of the inquiry was botched, which is one reason the case has remained in the public's consciousness. Before the Ramsey home could be fully searched for physical evidence after the police initially came there, friends of the family showed up to support them, and the police let them roam throughout the house without restriction. Even some of Patsy's pals helped her clean the kitchen. If conclusive physical proof had existed, it was very soon destroyed. The Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short, then 22 years old, was discovered dead in a Los Angeles neighborhood on January 15, 1947. A mother walking with her little kid at the time assumed she had stumbled upon a mannequin because of how badly her corpse had been dismembered. The case immediately caused a stir. Due to her claimed love of sheer black dresses in the 1946 film noir The Blue Dahlia, which detailed the death of an unfaithful housewife, Short earned the epithet Black Dahlia very quickly. Short was described as a flitting party girl with a history of drinking when underage. Evidently, compiling a list of a young woman's accomplishments was more fascinating than lamenting her passing. The media hysteria was only fueled by letters the putative murderer allegedly wrote to the police. After Short's murder was classified as a cold case, amateur investigators have put up their own theories. The TV miniseries I Am the Night was inspired by a former police officer who publicly charged his deceased father with the murder. A British researcher suspected that California police had cooperated with the killer. However, no theory is likely to ever be proven beyond a reasonable doubt because the majority of the case's physical evidence has been lost to time and police negligence, as well as because most of the important witnesses have now passed away. The Hall Mills murders. A small community was stunned by the killings of a pastor and a choir singer on a makeshift lovers' road, which resulted in a flurry of charges, contradictory testimony from witnesses, and multiple false confessions. In 1922, a married Eleanor Mills was a member of Edward Wheeler Hall's church in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and the two were having an adulterous relationship. The two traveled from their separate places to meet on September 14th. When Hall didn't return home that night, his wife, Frances, and one of his brothers-in-law launched a search, but neither Hall nor Mills was found until 2 days later when another couple walking Lover's Lane found their dead under a crab apple tree. Hall had been shot in the head once, but Mills had suffered horrendous injuries to her body. She had been shot 3 times in the face, and her throat had been slit so severely that she had almost lost her head. She had had her tongue and larynx removed. An autopsy later found the couple's bodies had been placed close to one another after their deaths. It was evidently a personal matter. Although it appeared that Hall and Mill's affair had been widely known in the community, both of their spouses insisted that they were unaware of it, which raised red flags for investigators. Frances was viewed as a top suspect along with her brothers William and Henry Stevens. Despite its best efforts, the prosecution was unable to compile enough evidence to condemn the twins. Attention seekers continued to confess to the murders. Witness testimony kept shifting, and physical evidence was destroyed when onlookers tramped over the crime scene in search of souvenirs. As a result, the murders of Edward and Alina were never solved. Lizzie Borden used an axe to hit her mother 40 times before giving her father 41 after realizing what she had done. The well-known rhyme gives the impression that there has always been no question about Lizzie Borden's guilt for killing her stepmother and father on August 4, 1892. Officially, though, the killer's identity is still unknown. According to Lizzie's testimony, she found her father dead while alone with a maid named Bridget Sullivan in the Borden home with Mr. and Mrs. Borden. He had received several blows to the head from a blunt object. Upstairs, she found the body of her stepmother. Lizzie was accused of burning a dress in the stove and had just tried to purchase prussic acid, a poison. At first, the evidence against her appeared to be devastating. Moreover, Sullivan, her alleged accomplice, was observed leaving the house with a package on the evening of August 4th. But the court found that all of that evidence was just circumstantial at Lizzie's trial in 1893. No one else was ever arrested as a suspect, and Lizzie was never found guilty.